Hello to my fellow Walking Dead enthusiast. I'm GZTV, and if you guys didn't know by now, obviously Walking Dead's a good 12 years old, ever since like the pilot. But if you're new here, I'm rewatching The Walking Dead. We're on the 6th episode of season 2. We try to get an episode in a day, especially on the weekend. We're rolling out some content. We're trying all we can. Not a lot of interesting stuff this week, music wise, which is like the main intent of my channel. You know, I'm pretty much a music reviewer, but I've been starting to talk about TV shows and movies and stuff like that. It's been a fun experience for me. Video games, you know the gist if you've been here for a while. But we have the 6th episode of season 2, Secrets. A pretty not a monumental, a pretty momentous episode. A lot of things developing. I think this show's doing a great job so far. Um, with 11 seasons, I can imagine it gets oversaturated very quickly with like the nomadic lifestyle and the same result of them moving from place to place happening. But I'm really interested. So yeah, I want to see how this show ends. I like watching how shows end. It's very, very satisfying. So hopefully by the end of the year, maybe even like by the end of the actual college school year, I will be done with this show. But yeah, so let's get to the plot. Let's get to the critical reception. You guys know the gist if you've been here. So after he inadvertently discovers the presence of walkers in the green barn, Maggie begs Glenn to keep it a secret and not go up to Herschel and panic like the rest of the people would fucking do. Do not use your natural instincts in this situation because it's just going to make it worse. You know, Herschel's already lost family due to the apocalypse, and to be fair, everyone pretty much has as well, but we don't need to be banging on Herschel's door like, dude, you got walkers. That's kind of fucked up, man. Like, you know what I mean? Dale quickly notices Glenn's nervousness, and when he talks privately to Glenn, Glenn blurts out about the walkers as well, and as his knowledge that Lori Grimes is pregnant, so Glenn is definitely a fucking loudmouth out of this group. I would not want to give him. I would not want to put trust in him that he's going to keep a secret because it's just not going to happen. That's not Glenn's character. And it's good for Dale to know things like this. We need to spread this around. Like, that this Herschel guy, I mean, he has family in there. We do find out that's why he's keeping this kind of Walker barn established. But, you know, the Lori pregnant thing, you need to let Herschel know about that. Because it's going to be an excuse for the group to stay there longer. And that's probably not something they're thinking about. So, yeah. Dale confronts Herschel about the walkers, again being a loudmouth, going against what Maggie said. I mean, Maggie gets pretty mad at Glenn, but at the end of the day, they have like a romantic relationship, so she can't get too mad at him. Like, he's her only hope. Like, think about it. You know, Glenn is possibly the last man of her like age group alive right now, so she's just relishing in that and taking advantage. Herschel believes the walkers are still people, so there's like different theories that could arise out of a zombie apocalypse, including his wife and stepson and can be cured, and refuses to kill them after Dale explains the danger. He knows how dangerous they are. He's had first-hand experience. He hasn't been settled into a house. He's had to actually deal with them in the open and not like in a civilization like this. But yeah, they're definitely not people. We saw that out of the CDC. They die. Literally, their brains die, and then they get possessed. That's pretty much what they are. But anyways, Rick, Shane, and T-Dog give gun training to Jimmy, Carl, and the women on the farm. You know, Otis was one of the only guys on the farm that could handle the guns, so the women figured, you know what, let's go with Shane, one of the better gun trainers out of everyone here, probably. He's probably the best with guns. They go with him. They're like, we might as well learn a little bit. In case like Rick and them have to leave or something, you know, because that's their only like firepower. Shane takes Andrea aside to give her advanced training after seeing how good she is with a weapon, but she is unable to hit a moving target. Now this is where kind of the dickhead part of Shane comes out, but obviously he makes up for it with more sex. The show is becoming really intimate, and you guys will notice that. Like, a lot of relationships are unfolding, a lot of people are desperate for love and attention, and they're resorting to sex, obviously. The dirty deed. Shane tries to encourage her to remember her dead sister, Amy, but this only causes Andrea to storm away. Obviously, Andrea being the emotional mess she has been throughout this show. I don't know what Shane was thinking. I don't know why he would say some stuff like that to her. We know how she feels about shit like that. You know, we know her character. We knew how she was going to react in bringing up her sister. She is kind of an emotional whore. Let's be honest here. There's reason. I mean, obviously, I say this now, but if I was in that situation, I'd probably be pretty upset as well. Meanwhile, Rick and Lori argue on what to do with Herschel's demand to leave the farm now that Carl is healed. Yeah, what are the next steps for these guys? Are they going to go to Fort Benning? Are they going to really try to get Herschel to let them stay? Because this is the best it's going to get for them right now. Yeah. Andrea and Shane then go off to town after Shane finds a lead on the missing Sophia, but find it overrun by Walker, so it's pretty much a dead end, as is a lot of things in an environment like this, in this little zombie apocalypse we got going on. They escape after Andrea rediscovers her shooting abilities, and the two subsequently begin an affair. Obviously, they have sex with each other. That's probably not going to be the last of that, given what's been happening with Glenn and Maggie, and this show's patterns of relationships. Shane, he's probably going to start getting over Lori. This is good for Shane. His relationship with Andrea here, and their bonding over gun training is great for him, to be honest. And, yeah. Dale senses something amiss and warns Shane to stay away from Andrea, as well as his suspicion of what happened to Otis while he and Shane went searching for medical supplies, and his contempt for Rick. So Dale is getting suspicious of this. Of Shane, obviously, a lot of people have skepticisms about him. I mean, there's very much a good reason why. I mean, he's literally like a fucking 17-year-old, like a college frat kid inside of like a 40-year-old body. Like, that's what I look at Shane as. He's kind of immature about things. Like, he kind of messes with people. He doesn't have any remorse for whatever he does. He doesn't have feelings towards others. I mean, obviously he had sex, but that's literally what he is. He's a frat kid inside a 40-year-old man's body, if he even is that old. And you see some parallels between Herschel. It's kind of cool. You see parallels between Herschel trying to keep Glenn away from Maggie. Doesn't work. And obviously Dale's going to try to keep Shane away from Andrea. Like two father figures, even if they're not directly fathers of these people, these girls. Shane denies the accusations and threatens to shoot Dale should he make any more. Obviously, he kind of reminds me of Brad Pitt's character. I don't remember his name. Brad Pitt's character in Seven, just a young, naive, doesn't know how to handle a situation type of thing. Those characters are very reminiscent of each other, I think. Maggie and Glenn discuss the Walker situation on the farm, with Maggie sharing the same attitude as her father Herschel. They're people too. We shouldn't kill them. Even though that's probably pretty far-fetched, given what fucking Glenn's gone through. I don't think he agrees with that wholeheartedly. They go on another supply run at Lori's request, specifically looking for morning after pills. She wants to get rid of this fucking baby. Okay, yeah, it's kind of evil, but at the same time, it's probably for the best of the child to not have to go through a zombie apocalypse in infancy. At the pharmacy, Maggie is attacked by a walker, but Glenn intervenes and subdues it before it harms Maggie, and obviously Maggie's probably impressed because they didn't have to deal with walkers on the farm, and now that she's seeing Glenn beat the shit out of him, she's impressed. So that's good on Glenn to have that experience to impress a girl. Back on the farm, Maggie confronts Lori about being almost killed due to her request and tells Glenn the rest of the group is using him as walker bait. It's kind of true. I think Maggie brings up a good point. She goes up to Glenn. She's like, dude, they're using you. They don't care about you. You don't have any family here. You don't have any, emotional attraction from these other people. These people don't care about you. You don't have anything about you that's really that likable. You're just a smart kid, It's true. I mean, they're pretty much using Glenn, and that's something that you got to start realizing. Maggie blaming Lori for almost dying was stupid as hell, because you probably would have had to make a run there anyways. Yeah. Glenn later tells Lori that she should tell Rick about her pregnancy soon, especially when she starts to look fucking pregnant. She's not going to be able to hide that, unless she says she's gotten fat as hell, but it's fucking abnormal to be fat and have just your stomach be like this. That's not normal. I know that's what a stereotypical fat person in a cartoon would look like, but no, that's not how it works. Lori contemplates the act of raising a child in this world and decides to take the pills, but after a moment runs away from their camp to immediately regurgitate them. Throws them up, kind of like Gus in Breaking Bad with the pills, or with the tequila. Oh man, AMC. It's interesting, man. I don't know. They probably didn't intend on that, but So she's very conflicted. Lori's very conflicted. Do I raise a child in a shitty world, or do I just end it before it even starts? But Rick sees the pills and goes to find Lori, who admits she was in a relationship with Shane before Rick found them. So there's a very big fucking confessional, little cliffhanger at the end of this episode, and it's great. A lot of things develop in this episode. It's a good episode. Rick reveals he already knew about her being with Shane because of Shane's rivalry with Rick. The audience didn't know that Rick knew about this, so this was insane. Let's get to the reception. Secrets was well received by television critics. The episode dispensed with almost every hidden truth that the survivors have been keeping from one another. The episode's one focused on love and relationships. The episode's satisfying. Its character development was executed strongly. 8 out of 10 on IGN. A great episode. Viewers tuning in each week in the hope of watching pulse-quickening battles between overmatched humans and armies of the undead are sure to be frustrated. Things are static in an action sense, but the show's admirably nuanced characters are changing and reacting to the world in surprising and complicated ways. The characters became more distinguishable for this episode. Not all people liked the episode. Obviously, there are haters out there that exist. Some people said, despite having high hopes in the beginning, the episode overall failed to meet expectations for some. Despite containing solid scenes, the episode harbored several issues. The pace of the storyline progression, the execution of the character development is weak. It's a B grade on the AV Club. The character development, there's very little action. The character development was good, I think, but I don't know. It's weird. The episode's boring. I don't think so. I was pretty intrigued with it all the way through. I don't know about you guys, but holy shit. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. The opening segments was great. It was a great start to the episode. The show returned to form following the sequence. This episode's opening functioned like an adrenaline shot to weary hearts across the globe. The sight of all those undead relatives in the barn. It's crazy. The character's reaction to Lori opting for an abortion was polarizing, like what people thought about that, how they handled it. The characters' opposing views on the matter, their reasonings were invalid, were kind of criticized. People weren't sure it would be possible for her to abort the pregnancy at this point, but the show is working on the assumption that having a child in a world where death literally lurks around every corner is an unequivocal good. The only person who's been anti-pregnancy is Lori, and the show hasn't managed to cast her in a very good light, so it's not like her arguments hold much water, which is also ridiculous because ultimately her opinion is the only one that matters. Rick's arguments against Lori's attempts were obsolete to some. The love triangle with Lori, Rick, and Shane was cited as an episode highlight, obviously it coming to an end and it just being Rick and Lori and that being solidified. The interactions between Lori and Rick possessed as much rawness and honesty as could be hoped for. The emotion during the interaction between Shane and Rick was weird. It was a standard Walking Dead attempt at trying to convince us that Grimes and Shane are friends by way of showing us their casual, good old boy tinged banter. The episode's conclusion was a rational and level-headed resolution to the storyline. Whatever jealousy he might feel, it would have been absurd for Rick to punish the woman he loves most in the world for post-apocalyptic infidelity under these circumstances. Rick's reactions to Lori's confessions were commended. Their interaction was well acted and perfectly scripted. The segment was very engaging. Lincoln's performance was great. Andrew Lincoln delivered these lines of pitiable understanding as well as anyone could. If you thought Rick and Shane had blow-ups before, you ain't seen nothing yet, is what some people said. The growing relationship between Andrea and Shane has been applauded. Dale's confrontation with Shane was great. Unlikely pairing as seen before. It was superior to the storyline between Andrea and Dale. There's something to be said for the occasional post-apocalypse. Sorry, this is going to be a long episode. There's something to be said for the occasional post-apocalyptic tryst, which allows two characters who's experienced almost nothing but misery to have, even for a moment, something that resembled joy. It was wise to underplay the tryst between Shane and Andrea. It would not lead to anything serious, which it did. That's what a lot of people... It went in a different direction than people expected. Dale's lack of personality traits, beyond being the wise sage who gets in everyone's business, makes him an unpredictable foe in a lot of people's book, and could be as interesting as Shane's violent selfishness. Shane continued to be an interesting character. Just as we were beginning to like him again, he murdered Otis in cold blood, and it seems like his downward spiral is set to continue. He's threatening poor Dale and embarking on an ill-advised affair with Andrea. The progressing relationship between Maggie Green and Glenn was great. Their interactions carry the most emotional poignance. She's forced to confront, perhaps for the first time, that these creatures are slobbering monsters. Before her attack, she yelled at Dale for calling them walkers. To her, their mom, her brother, and neighbors. After her attack, her mind might be changed. There's considerable confusion about abortion, but I'm not really going to get into that. We're not going to get into the abortion. I just wanted to get into the overall, what people thought. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I know this was a long episode, but it's a critically acclaimed show, and I got to really talk about it in depth. Every single storyline has people talking about it. It's a much talked about show. There's going to be a lot of opinions on the internet, and I just wanted to share those with you guys. But anyways, have a good rest of your day. I'm out. I'm in the dark. It looks weird. Pardon me. I'll be back in college Monday night. So